Glenn Scruggs, running for Senate in Chattanooga. Glenn, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. So before we get started, I just want people to know that they can find us at tnholler.com, at the TN Holler on Twitter and Facebook. We appreciate all the support. We also have hollers all throughout the state, including in Chattanooga at Nooga Holler. Glenn needs your help. He's in a tight race in Chattanooga. Glenn, how is the race going, first of all?
We're rolling. The polling looks good for us. We're right neck and neck. And now it's just a matter of getting folks to the polls.
You know, there's a lot of races in Tennessee that are not close. Yours is not one of them. People should know that you are assistant police chief in Chattanooga, running against a guy who is an incumbent. I think he's been in there about 8 years.
Yep, 2 terms.
This week, Senator Gardenhire was on News Channel 9 doing an interview, and he said some pretty controversial stuff about people in the inner city.
He said this:
the obesity rate in the inner city is bigger than anywhere else, because what do? They go to a 7-Eleven or convenience store and there's fried chicken, so they get them fried chicken on the way home, eat dinner there. That's the worst thing you can eat.
There is an older white man in the South talking about people in the inner city, which I think I'll go ahead and say is a euphemism for black people, and fried chicken. Glenn, when you saw that, what were your thoughts?
I was in shock. There is no way that a guy from his generation is not going to know how that sort of trope is going to land. There's no way.
It's not the first time a Tennessee Republican has made a fried chicken reference when referencing black people. Representative Mike Carter, who is out of Ooltewah, which is actually close to Chattanooga, was in committee earlier this year and made a fried chicken reference with Joe Towns. My first thought was, wow, if they're saying this in committee and on TV in a live interview, what are they saying behind closed doors? Does it make you wonder that, Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, if guys are that open with making completely divisive remarks in public, it does make you question what goes on behind closed doors. It makes you speechless, man. It just makes you speechless. They've grown up in the South. There's no way those guys can't know how that's going to land. And it can't be joked off as just some mere quip. These guys are professional politicians and they should know better.
You have to put it in context, too. We are in a state that has a KKK Grand Wizard bust in our state capitol. Just this week, the lieutenant governor and the speaker of the House added an extra step to keep it from being removed from the Capitol. You've got 0 black people in the Tennessee Republican caucus, guys making fried chicken jokes, fried chicken references. And then you've got the policies of criminalizing voter registration, criminalizing protest. What does it all add up to as a black man in Tennessee? How does it feel to see that coming from leadership?
It just shows you that these folks, they're out of touch. Their time has passed. I don't know what era that this would have been acceptable in my lifetime, but I know it's definitely not appropriate for 2020. Something needs to change. We need to be keenly aware of how these guys think and not just let these things pass by as harmless jokes, because they're not harmless. And these guys are being really bad models to folks that are looking up to them, whether it's young politicians or kids in school.
Senator Bill Powers, who may be your colleague soon, was at a debate with Ronnie Glynn, who's running for Senate in Clarksville. He's a veteran and a black man. And they were at a debate, and Bill Powers said the KKK Grand Wizard bust isn't hurting anybody.
I just don't know exactly. I'll be honest with you. I just don't know exactly how I would vote. But I do know where it is today. I don't think it's hurting anyone.
Seems to be a lot of dismissal of the pain of black people going on.
Yeah, I mean, you can't marginalize how people feel about a thing. You can't say, well, it doesn't offend me, so it clearly can't offend you. And that's the argument they presented. A commercial going around that says that my opponent has done more to protect that bust than he has done to represent the African-American community in Chattanooga. I can't argue with that statement.
He also said black police officers, I guess, know the parents of somebody who gets pulled over for a DUI, apparently shouldn't arrest them.
And they see one of their neighbors drunk. And you throw them in jail for the rest of their life? No, you say, look, we're going to take you home. Don't do this again. I know your mama. I know your daddy.
And then you mentioned someone not taking the jail. Are you advocating for that? For not?
No, you don't throw somebody on the ground, throw handcuffs on them, everybody pile on because they were drinking. That's my point. That's my point.
Okay.
If somebody's driving the car DUI, that's a different story. I didn't say that.
But as you saw in that story, that's exactly what he said.
As a police officer and somebody who is running to make laws, what do you think about a lawmaker saying something like that?
We've had protests all summer, right? Because of mistrust with law enforcement. That methodology and that idea that you can know a police officer and get an easy break because you're familiar with that person or your family is why we have that mistrust between the community and law enforcement. It can't be that way. That's what someone would term as the good old boy mentality as far as policing. And that's why I say that Senator Gardenhire is out of touch. That's not the model that modern policing is supposed to be built around. He's way outside of his lane on that one. And he should have known better again.
One of the things that jumped out at me was just how he immediately tried to lie about what he had said on camera, saying that he wasn't talking about someone who was driving when he very clearly was. The idea that nepotism should play a part in who gets in trouble, it just shows you how loosey-goosey this law and order Republican Party actually is, and how they don't think the laws apply to the people that are around them.
And that's the thing. People are upset about just the fact that it's not equitable.
So how can people help your campaign? I think it's GlennForSenate.com.
GlennForSenate.com.
There are not a lot of close races in Tennessee. This is one of them. If you're looking for a race to get involved with, this would be one of them. Glenn, good luck to you. Thanks for coming on here. I think speaking up and fighting back is what has to happen to make Tennessee a better place. So thanks for doing it.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for the invite.